Shalom friends, and welcome to another video learning the Hebrew Alef-Bet. Today we're in tutorial number 8, and I'm going to break this tutorial up into two sections. So we're going to have section A and section B. In this video we'll talk about the first section, section A. Now we're going to be learning two new Hebrew letters and one new vowel mark. The first letter that we're looking at here is called the Alef, and it is actually the first letter of the Hebrew Alef-Bet. Thus you can see where the name comes from. This is a silent letter. It doesn't have a pronunciation. Well, for the sake of these videos, it doesn't have a pronunciation, but if you think of it in terms of biblical or ancient Hebrew, there were supposedly ways of pronouncing these letters, but for our lessons we're going to think of them as purely silent. The second letter is called the Ayin, and here again it is also silent, doesn't have a pronunciation. I'll explain a little bit later why we have two of them in Hebrew and not just one. And the vowel mark that we're going to pick up is here again. This is just to designate a placeholder. These two vertical dots would appear beneath a letter, and this also does not have a pronunciation. It is silent. It is often, well, it's called the silent shva, and you probably want to learn this. And you have a couple different forms of these, but for now we're going to think of it as just silent. There is also a vocal shva, but we'll talk about that in more advanced lessons. For now, all of these are going to designate either a silent letter or a silent vowel mark. Before we get really started into the intricacies of how we should think of these letters and how they work, let's practice making sure that you can write these in both the block script and the handwriting script. Now the block script for the Aleph is typically, I will write it something like this, a diagonal line, and then just this kind of curled part up, kind of like you're putting a yud up at the top, and then this kind of foot down below. Now actually you might see it both ways. You might see it kind of curled inward or curled outward. The Ayin is kind of, to me it kind of looks like an English Y, but we're going to make it something like that. You might also see the Aleph a little bit more fancy. You kind of have these little, I don't know what you call that up at the top, but something like this. If you look at the Torah, the same with the Torah in Hebrew, but if you might also see the Ayin something like that as well. But for now, I think it's just safe if you just practice them pretty straightforward like that for the Ayin and the Aleph, something like that. In the handwriting script, they're not identical, but they're not too hard to remember. The Aleph is kind of like you're starting out with the English C, and then you put a vertical line next to it. Kind of looks like a K in a sense. The Ayin reminds me of like a ribbon, like the way we might draw the symbol for a ribbon. So the Aleph again in the handwriting script, and then the Ayin. We'll do the Ayin one more time, and then end it with the Aleph. Okay, if you notice well, let me just say it this way. In Hebrew is very constructive, or I don't know, systematic, if you want to think of it that way. It's very logical, in my opinion, or concrete. They like to follow certain rules and building blocks. Everything's very constructed upon building blocks, words, and similar to English, but English is a little bit more abstract, I think, and you'll find that some things about Hebrew make it a little bit easier to learn. But with respect to syllables, in an academic setting, you're going to pretty much learn that there's two types of syllable structures. One would be a consonant vowel. Let's say that's the first one, and then the second one will be a consonant vowel consonant, and that's really all you have. You're just going to use these two in conjunction with one another. And you might be asking, well, What if you have a word with that starts with, you know, a vowel or two consonants together or two vowels together, and we're going to see that that's where the silent letters come in handy. Before we look at that, though, let me kind of come over here to the side and just basically say the silent letters, the Aleph and the Ayin, are basically going to take on the pronunciation of whatever vowel mark is next to them. So if we have an Aleph here and then the hard A vowel mark that's area down below, that's going to be pronounced like A. If we have the Aleph with a Cholam Vav, that's going to be pronounced like O. And the same would go with the Ayin. The Ayin would, if we put a area down below, that would take on the pronunciation of the vowel mark A, just a hard A. And then if we put a Cholam Vav next to it, it would be like that. It would get the same pronunciation of a O. Now, in Hebrew, you have guttural words, or I'm sorry, guttural letters, and they have more of a sound as if they come off the back of the throat. Ayin was one of those, and according to ancient Hebrew tradition, letters with the ayin in it would get more of a kind of a raspier. I can't really make the sound. It's a deep sound that comes off the back of your throat, and you could tell the difference between the ayin and the aleph. But over time, that pronunciation has kind of dropped, and there really is no distinction between the two. They really just kind of take up the pronunciation of the vowel mark that's next to them. So if we go back over here to the consonant vowel sort of syllable structure we were talking about earlier, as a general rule, although this is not how it might be taught to you in an academic setting, I would think of everything in Hebrew always following this consonant vowel, consonant vowel, consonant vowel, and so on and so forth. Although you might have a consonant vowel, consonant, consonant, and so on. And the reason why is basically these letters that we're learning, the silent letters, they're just basically like a silent consonant. We don't want to think of them as a vowel. It's the vowel marks that give them the vowel pronunciation. So this Aleph with the seri down below constitutes a consonant and a vowel. Same with all of these. So every letter in Hebrew, it likes to have a vowel mark next to it. Okay, so if we have well, let's suppose we have a consonant, vowel, consonant, and then literally a consonant next to it. Well, how do we put a vowel mark there if that's how it's spoken? Well, that's where the silent schwa comes in, the silent vowel mark. You would put the silent schwa down below to note that there's a break between the two syllables. That's typically what it's used for. I think that's the easiest way for those of us in English to think about it, but like I said, in a sort of academic setting, it might be taught to you a little bit differently. So that's how we're going to that's my best pointer that I could give to you, is always follow that form where you have a consonant vowel structure going on. And of course in Hebrew, since we're going right to left, it's gonna look more like this. It's gonna look more like you've got a consonant, and then you either got a vowel mark that's gonna appear down below it or over here to the right of it, and then you got a vowel mark, and then it's gonna a consonant, a vowel mark is gonna appear over to the right of it, and so on and so forth. Now this is just a general rule, but rules can always be broken, right? So you're gonna see that this does not always hold true all the time, but that's how I think of it. And all these silent letters, except for the vowel mark, the Aleph and the Ayin, remember they're going to constitute a consonant for you, and they're going to also pick up a vowel mark just like a regular letter. The only difference is they're just going to take on the pronunciation of that vowel mark itself and not anything else. We will see that. I'm going to pick this up in the next video because I didn't have time to put all this in the same video. But we're going to see that if I just go ahead and point that out over here on some of these words, like In exercise 5, motorboat. You see here we got two consonants right beside one another. We're going to spell these in Hebrew a little bit later. Tomb is the same way. And then Boston. So this is going to highlight the silent schwa. Down here with Israel, we've got both two consonants together. We've also got a vowel and a vowel right there together. So we'll see how that'll work as well. And then, of course, in Hebrew, a lot of words will begin with I don't know what the right word for that is. It's kind of like two constants beside one another. What you find out is that many of these letters in Hebrew, these consonants that come at the beginning, they act as prepositions. But it's very common as well that just a normal word like this last one, meod, will that m there is not acting as a preposition. It's just a quick ma'od, and a lot of words like that in Hebrew. The accents are a little bit different. So let's carry on in tutorial B and sort of clarify what we talked about in this video.